Welcome, friends. Thank you for joining us for some orientation for gathering leaders. We appreciate that you are a leader at Holy Comforter. Know that during this time you are not required to meet in person, but if you choose to, then these are the guidelines that the diocese has set forth for us to follow to keep everyone as safe as we can. Again, thanks for making Holy Comforter a place where love grows.
Thanks, Diana. I'm going to take us through this training session, and we're going to start with reminding everyone that this is about stages 1B and 2, even though we're not in stage 2 yet. This applies to both stages. And as Diana said, everything we're talking about today, including the protocols that have been developed specifically for Holy Comforter, fall within the diocesan guidance that all parishes in our diocese have received. Some of the things apply to everybody attending a gathering, an in-person gathering, and some apply just to the leaders, and that's that second part is what we're going to focus on today after we've quickly reviewed the stuff for everybody. And then we're going to allow time for question and answer. Okay, so first reviewing what everyone needs to know. These protocols do apply to in-person gatherings regardless of whether they are on campus or off. All gatherings have limited sizes, and we will talk about those in more detail. You'll become familiar with the fact that 25 people can attend a worship service in stage 1B outdoors, but only 15 people outdoors for non-worship gatherings. All gatherings do require pre-approval, and we'll talk about how you get that, that approval as a gathering leader. And the training that you're doing today is required before you can lead an in-person gathering. People who are attending gatherings need to understand there are several things that apply to them just as attendees. They must pre-register for the gathering, and that's to help ensure that we don't go over the number of people limits. And they will have to sign in on an attendance log giving their contact information. They will have to meet the diocese's health screening criteria. Everyone will have to observe the 3 W's, wear, wait, and wash. And they will be asked to notify the church if they develop COVID. We are sharing this kind of information with people through lots of different means, including the Reopening Our Doors video, blast notices, Sunday announcements, and more. So that's just the recap of what applies to everybody. Now let's talk specifically about as a gathering leader. There are 4 steps to holding a gathering. The first one and the last one are new, specifically related to COVID protocols. The 2 middle ones, step 2 and 3, are things that you would normally be doing, but they for your gathering, but they have twists to them related to COVID. We've prepared several resources to help you through these steps, and we'll go through them next. So first, just a list of what some of the written resources are. We will pull them up individually and just take a quick look at them so you'll be familiar with what they look like and where to find them. They are all going to be found on our COVID website, which is listed at the bottom of the page. It's just the church's website, then /COVID. So the first one is a quick guide to leading outdoor gatherings, and it's kind of a flow chart. It's colorful, and it's 1 page, and it's a simple way to walk yourself through what the steps are. Then if you're looking for more detailed instructions, there's a document called Stage 1B Instructions for Gathering Leaders. Because these gatherings are outdoors and you will need to know a little bit about the physical layout of the spaces, we prepared another document that's called Outdoor Gatherings Guidance. And then finally, to request approval for your gathering, there is a form that you will need to fill in and send to Holly. And then the screening criteria that you'll probably want to send to your invitees in advance, and the attendance log that you will have ready for them to sign when they come to your meeting. Those are the written resources. I'm going to show you a couple of physical resources as well that will be very helpful to you. Because you've got the attendance logs and the possibility of needing to screen people with the health criteria, you're going to need things like folding tables and other supplies. So we've put all that stuff together in 2 different staging areas. One is in the narthex, and that is for any gatherings that are held in the Memorial Garden. And the other, probably will get more use, is in the Atkinson Library lobby area. And that's for any gatherings that are held in the Van Every lawn or courtyard area. What you'll find in those staging areas are 2 folding tables, one 8-foot long one and one 6-foot long. You'll find a tote bag that is actually a Loaves and Fishes red tote bag, and it's got a bunch of different things that you will need. Underneath, the tote bag is on a wooden table that the folding tables are propped up against. Underneath that wooden table are 2 traffic cones, 2 orange traffic cones, and there are no access signs that attach to those cones. And we'll explain what you'll need those for in a minute. The tote bags have got things like a bottle of spray disinfectant, a roll of paper towels, a box of disposable masks, pens that people can use if they don't bring their own pen for signing the attendance log, and more. So again, we'll talk about a little bit more of those in a minute. But right now, let's take a look at each of the resources that you'll need. So I'm going to escape out of the PowerPoint and take us to the COVID website. So this is what it will look like when you or your attendees come to holycomfortercharlotte.org/COVID, and it can also be found in that main masthead. Okay. The health screening criteria are right here, so we can click and go take a look at those. So this is something that you can download and email it to your invitees, or you can just direct them to go to the website and see it. As you can see, there are 4 main categories, but the specifics within each category, people are going to need some time to read them, think about them, and be able to assure themselves that, yes, I meet those criteria. If the first time they're seeing them is when they come to the meeting, you're going to have a bottleneck as people are arriving at your meeting. All right, now I want to go back and I want to take you to look at another online item. Okay. The quick guide that we mentioned, this is the, find the link there, this link right there. This is the thing that as a leader is going to help you become familiar with the steps. So the first thing is attend this training that you're doing now. The second thing, when you know you've got a meeting you want to hold, is get your meeting approval request form and submit it to Holly. Create a notification for your invitees and send it out to them. Get there, as you get RSVPs, you might choose to what we call pre-populate your attendance log with people's name, email, and phone number, so they don't have to take time to do that as they're arriving at your meeting. Depending how big your meeting is, you may want some helpers to help you with the setup and to help you with the attendance and the post-meeting procedures. Once you get at your event day, your meeting day, arrive anywhere from half an hour to an hour before so that you can be sure that doors are unlocked and that you have plenty of time to get everything set up and do your sanitizing. Tables and things like that need to be sanitized before your attendees arrive. You screen and sign in your attendees, you conduct your meeting. When everything's done, you re-sanitize everything. You replace everything in the staging area and in the tote bag, and you take your attendance log and get it turned in to Jessica. Finally, you lock the doors and set the alarm, assuming that no one else is on campus at the same time as you. Okay. You reference the stage 1B instructions for gathering leaders, and That's not linked yet, but it will be soon. So for today, I'm going to show you what it looks like. We're not going to go through this in detail, but this is what it looks like. It reiterates the 4 steps, talks about how you obtain pre-approval, and I'll show you the approval request form in a minute. You'll get something back from Holly telling you that your meeting is approved and which gathering space you've been assigned to, which restrooms your meeting may use. Even though we're not meeting indoors, we are providing access to indoor restrooms. If for any reason Holly does not have space for your meeting, someone else is already using that space, you'll get a denial, but you are encouraged to contact her and talk through alternatives, whether shifting your time a little bit or shifting your date, whatever. You do your preparations, and so this involves looking at the outdoor gathering guidelines to really think about the setup of your space. So we'll go over those in a little bit. Think about your gathering assistants and get them recruited. You will, if you don't do it yourself, you will want someone to be what we call an attendance monitor, and they're the person who ensures that people who come to your meeting are the people who have pre-registered, and therefore you're not going to go over your size limits, and that they've met the screening criteria, and that they sign in on the attendance log. You can use Sign Up Genius or any other way to pre-register people, including just having them RSVP to you through email. You may have other materials that you want, handouts, that kind of thing. We are encouraging people to digitally share handouts in advance and ask your invitees to bring their own copy. Same thing with prayer books, etc. And the last thing on preparing is just be prepared that if someone becomes ill during the gathering for any reason, not just COVID related, or if there's an injury or damage to property, please do notify Holly Williams and Trish Stuckbauer. There are things they will need to do in response to those types of events. So conduct the approved gathering. Off campus and on campus are similar in the sense that you still have to provide for social distancing, disinfecting, screening, making sure people wear masks, that they sanitize their hands, and that there's an attendance log sign-in, and make sure that you're not planning to offer food or drink and people aren't bringing any, and that there's no singing, humming, or wind instruments. So we've already talked about arriving early if you're doing an on-campus meeting and doing your setup. We encourage you to use the Atkinson white door because that's right near an alarm pad, and relock the door until you're ready to have your gathering begin. Locate the staging area, pull stuff out from the staging area into your meeting, sanitize your hands, set up your attendance station. So that is where we suggest you use the 8-foot table and put out a copy of the screening criteria just to remind people, and your attendance log sheet, those disposable masks we referred to. There are some Holy Comforter mugs that you can use to put some clean pens in, and as people use them, then have them put the used pen in the other cup, and you can put Post-it notes on them to say clean and used. There's an enter here sign that you'll find in the tote bag, and you can use the painter's tape that is in the tote bag to attach it to either your sign-in table or to part of the portico where you want people to enter. There's other tape that is yellow. So the painter's tape is just the standard blue painter's tape. There's also yellow tape that is specifically for exterior surfaces, and you can use that to mark off 6-foot waiting lines if you feel that's needed. We hope you won't need a screening station because your people will have already looked at the screening criteria, but if you have any unexpected people, you might need a screening station. And that's what the 6-foot table could be used for. Hopefully your attendees are bringing their own folding chair. For some worship services, clergy are directing their worship team to bring out some Holy Comforter chairs, but we hope that for other meetings that won't be necessary. Restroom access. So Holly will tell you which restroom your meeting can use. For the Memorial Garden, that restroom will always be the unisex bathroom that is right outside the sacristy's flower room. For meetings in Van Every, it will almost always be the Van Every men's and women's rooms that are on the same, the main level, that you can then prop open a door from the courtyard. In either case, we want you to take those cones that we talked about with the no access beyond this point signs and put them kind of either side of the restroom so that they indicate to people, we really don't want you to go wandering down the hall away from the restrooms. That just creates more areas that the janitorial service will have to clean and disinfect. Greeting your people, that's pretty self-evident. Read through the getting people checked in. When you start the gathering, just remind them of the protocols. Ending the gathering, you're going to dismiss folks and ask them to go back to their cars in an orderly and socially distanced manner without lingering to talk until they're well away from the gathering space's exits. This is just so that we don't get bottlenecks where people have to either wait or be less than 6 feet apart in order just to leave. Normally that will happen at your scheduled ending time, but there are a couple of instances where you will need to end your gathering before its scheduled time. And the first is going to be hazardous weather or an emergency situation. So in the case of an emergency, you can invite people to go indoors. And we're talking there something like a tornado warning, i.e. Mecklenburg County, a tornado has touched down, take shelter immediately. Otherwise, ask people to go back to their cars and go home. The other reason that you might have to end your meeting prematurely is if you've got attendees who decline to abide by the COVID-19 protocols. Greg, the diocese, and we, the task force, are going to be very insistent on this. If someone is not willing to abide by the protocols, then and they will not leave your meeting, then your meeting has to end. And we will ask that you let Holly know who those people are, because they will not be permitted to attend in-person events until our COVID-19 protocols are lifted. We do understand that there are people who, for medical reasons, cannot wear a mask, but unfortunately, that means, based on the diocesan protocols and guidelines that we've received, they will have to wait to attend an in-person meeting until those protocols change as we move into perhaps stage 3.
Vicki?
All right, you may need assistance with the closing up, cleaning up, and closing up the buildings. And finally, you'll submit your attendance logs. And there's a couple different ways you can do that. And again, I'm not going to read everything to you. You can go back and look at that. Inviting people to the meetings. Oh, did I hear someone has a question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. One other time that you might need to end your gathering early is if you have thunder or lightning.
Yes. That would come under our definition of hazardous weather. A little bit of light rain is not a problem if you feel you have, either the tent or umbrellas and people are comfortable. But as soon as you hear thunder or lightning, that constitutes hazardous weather, because that means you are within the strike zone. Thank you, Diana.
I have another question. So about the masks, what do children have to wear masks?
Children 2 or under do not have to wear masks. And those are some of the things that, again, are covered in the more detailed reopening our doors video, and in the that first bit of the website that you saw. And if it's not, we'll make sure that it's added to the website, because that's a very good point. Most of the gatherings that leaders will be leading are not going to be for children. But if there's a gathering where you're inviting families to come with their children, then that would apply. Very young children, 2 and under, do not need to wear a mask. All right, we know that inviting people to a meeting with all these COVID protocols is perhaps daunting, so we've prepared a couple of examples that you can just lift and borrow. So you'll see them here. And we also know that there may be some trepidation about, what if someone won't follow the protocols? What do I say? Or what if someone can't use hand sanitizer because they're allergic? What's the alternative, and what do I say to them? Again, what about the attendance logs if someone is not willing to provide, or if they say, well, I actually, did travel internationally last week. Oh, I'm so sorry, then you cannot attend. But this gives you the ways that you can say that in a loving but firm way. All right.
Vicki, I have a question about international travel. Does that include Canada?
Yes, because that is a different country. So we're not just talking about intercontinental travel, but if you go to Canada or Mexico, any place that is not the United States, that is the direction that we have right now. Okay.
And what about Hawaii and Alaska? Is it okay for people if
Those
they've
are
been on
within
vacation?
those are within the United States. So yes.
Okay.
Travelers will have to be aware of the fact that I think some places that you travel to will require you to self-quarantine while you're there before you can go out and about. So we can't be responsible for that. We're just responsible for when you come back from international travel, you have to have passed the length of time that those screening criteria require. All right, I'm going to now go to the outdoor gathering guidelines just to show you what's in those so you can see how's that different from the stage 1B instructions. So it reiterates some of the things that your the stage 1B talks about, or that are in the basic information that all parishioners hopefully have received. But what's going to be really helpful to you is the specific area guidelines. And I'm going to note that we will be updating this parking item, that we're not going to require that people park every other space, just that they practice social distancing as they get in and out of their cars. So there's a section that will tell you all about the Memorial Garden, what can and can't happen there, which restroom to use, where you might want to set up your screening and attendance log stations. So we found it really helpful to, in effect, block off the stairs that come down to the driveway with that table. And that kind of directs people to come around, and you can funnel them in this way and make sure you get some good social distance waiting as they sign in, and then they proceed into the Memorial Garden. For the Van Every yard, pretty similar, but it looks like this. And so this is probably where you're going to be meeting. Matter of fact, there'll be a big tent there for October, last part of September and most of October. And that's where you can meet. You may want to set up the health screening under this part of the portico, and your attendance log this end here that's closer to where people will come in to meet. Okay. And of course, your staging area for Van Every Lawn is going to be inside Atkinson, kind of up through that doorway there. Okay. All right. Let me go back and see what else we want to make sure we showed you. We looked at the screening criteria already. Oh, the gathering approval requests. So let me go pull that one up. So for gathering leaders, as you scroll down, you're going to see the gathering approval request form. So you click on that, and this is what it looks like. You're going to fill in all of this stuff. What's the name of the group, or what's the purpose of the group? It will help Holly in terms of planning for space, and Jean once we get into stage 2 and we're possibly doing on-campus Christian formation, to know whether this is a spiritual formation gathering or some other kind of non-worship. Is it indoor worship, stage 2 only, or is it outdoor worship with different size limitations? Is it an on-campus gathering, or is it off-campus? And if off, fill in the location. Are you asking for a single meeting with the date and time that you would show there, or is this a recurring event like Vestry meets the 3rd Tuesday of every month kind of thing? In each case, when you're putting in your times, put the time that you actually want the meeting to start, not your setup time or the greeting time where people are just arriving and gathering, or your closing up time. Because we're going to give you a chance to specify that. Do you think you need 30 minutes to set up and greet? Do you think you need 60 minutes, etc.? This will just, again, help, particularly as we get into stage 2 and we're talking about indoor gatherings, and Holly has to really think about which rooms are being used for what, by whom, and when. Stage 2, if you've got AV needs, here's the usual stuff that Holly would want to know. Anything else you can think of. If you're doing crafting, it'd be helpful to know that, because that can influence whether you're put into a carpeted room or a room that can more easily have the floor be washed. Do you have a preference as to which space you get? Finally, do you already have a key that will get you into the main doors of both buildings? And do you have an alarm code? Okay, because if you don't, Holly will want you to coordinate with her for getting a key. All right, and then you fill in your name and other information. All right, so that'll go to Holly. She is not approving the merit of your group meeting. She is simply ensuring that, yes, you're on the list of people who have passed the training for being a gathering leader, and she has space for your group at the date and time you've requested. All right, almost done. Let's look at the attendance log form so you can see what that looks like. And for some reason it wants to download instead of just popping up, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right. For most gatherings, you will only need one log sheet. It will give you space for 8 people on the first side. The second side has the additional up to 15. Obviously, for worship, people know that they can go up to 25, and so there might be multiple sheets. Then we've got, you fill out the top, what gathering this was, or what purpose, what date it was, and what your start time was, and where your meeting was. And if you end up filling out the second side, please put check marks so that as Jessica receives these, because that's who you're going to send them to, she knows to flip over and look at the second side. Or if you printed it out as 2 separate sheets instead of 2-sided, she knows that she's looking to make sure she has the second side. The rest of this is pretty self-explanatory. If you pre-populate it, please put yourself first and then put everyone else. The roles are more just to distinguish people who are the gathering leader and any gathering assistants. Everyone else is an attendee. And these are the 4 criteria on the screening criteria sheet, and people can just put a Y for yes, that they meet all of them, or a check mark. If anyone is putting an N for no, they should not be attending your gathering. Okay, just so you can see, Word is splitting my document unevenly, but that could be fixed when you download your own copy. Okay. All right, let me minimize that and go back to where we have covered those things. And so I think that means, unless there's any other comments or observations, that we're just about done. Any questions or feedback? Hearing none, I'm going to just point out that we do ask those of you who are watching and listening to this on recording to complete your training by taking a quiz. And don't worry, we will send you this gobbledygook link in the email that the recording link came with. It's just 4 questions, and this is just an easy way for us to capture who actually did see the recording and get those names to Holly so that she can check you off on the list as having completed the training. And with that, we thank you for your leadership, being a leader of an in-person gathering. I will stop sharing my screen.
Okay.
No more recording?